The average American household is about to lose $2,800 in purchasing power this year, and most people won't even notice until it's too late. Let's decode this together. Here's what's going on. U.S. tariffs on imported goods are still very much in effect, and they're quietly making everyday stuff more expensive. We're talking about clothes, appliances, foams, furniture, even basic household items. A recent Federal Reserve Bank of New York study found that consumers and businesses are absorbing about 90% of those tariff costs. That means almost none of it is being eaten by the companies importing the goods. It's landing directly on your receipt. Now you might be thinking, wait, haven't we been hearing about tariff negotiations and potential relief? We have. But here's the part most people miss. Even when tariffs get reduced or paused, prices at the store don't usually come back down. Companies that raised prices to cover the tariff costs tend to keep those prices right where they are. They use the breathing room to rebuild their profit margins instead of passing savings along to you. So the headlines might say, tariff relief, but your grocery bill and your Amazon cart probably won't agree. To understand why this keeps happening, you have to look at how tariffs actually work in the real economy. When the U.S. puts a tariff on, say, washing machines from overseas, the company importing those machines pays the tariff at the border. But that company doesn't just eat the cost. They raise the wholesale price. The retailer then raises the sticker price. And you, standing in the appliance aisle trying to replace something that broke at the worst possible time, end up paying more. The tariff never shows up as a line item on your receipt. It's baked into the price before you even see the tag. What makes this cycle so stubborn is that once prices go up across an entire product category, there's very little competitive pressure to bring them back down. If every washing machine costs more because every manufacturer faced the same tariff, no single brand has an incentive to cut prices. They all just settle into the new normal. And that new normal sticks around long after the policy conversation moves on to something else. This doesn't stay contained to one aisle at the store either. Tariff costs ripple through the entire economy in ways that aren't obvious. When businesses pay more for imported parts and materials, they either raise prices on finished goods or they cut costs somewhere else. That somewhere else is often labor, fewer hours, fewer hires, slower raises. Reuters reported that companies are projecting tariff-related cost impacts of roughly $21 billion to nearly $23 billion for 2025. With close to $15 billion expected to carry into 2026. That's not abstract money. That's pressure on companies to squeeze budgets, and some of that squeezing lands on workers. It also affects housing, indirectly. Construction materials, like lumber, steel, and fixtures, have all been touched by tariff pricing at various points. When it costs more to build, it costs more to buy or rent what gets built. So even if you're not shopping for imported electronics, the tariff effect can show up in your rent increase or in the quote you get from a contractor. Let's make this personal. Say you're a family of 4, and over the next few months you need to replace a broken dryer, buy back-to-school supplies for 2 kids, and pick up a couple pairs of shoes. None of those purchases feels like a big-ticket splurge on its own, but each one is a little more expensive than it would have been without tariff pressure. The dryer costs maybe $60 to $80 more. The shoes are up $10 to $15 a pair. School supplies, another $20 to $30 total. Individually, you shrug it off. But a Yale estimate found that the current tariff setup could reduce household purchasing power by about $2,800 per year. That's not one dramatic hit. It's death by 1,000 small cuts that add up to basically an extra monthly bill you never signed up for. Here's the honestly annoying part. You can't opt out of this. You can't choose the no-tariff version of a washing machine. But you can be strategic about timing and choices. If you've got a big purchase coming up that isn't urgent, consider waiting and watching for sales cycles rather than buying at full price right now. Compare used versus new, especially for appliances and electronics, where lightly used options can save you hundreds. And if something in your house is aging but still functional, maintain it now, rather than waiting for it to die and forcing an emergency purchase at whatever the current price happens to be. Emergency buys are almost always more expensive because you lose the ability to shop around. Here's what to watch going forward. First, keep an eye on the Consumer Price Index report. It comes out monthly from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and you can check it in about 2 minutes at bls.gov. Look at the categories that matter to your household, things like apparel, appliances, and household furnishings. If those numbers keep ticking up, tariff pressure is still flowing through. Second, watch for any news about tariff negotiations or policy changes, but don't assume that relief at the policy level means relief at the checkout. History says companies hold prices even when their costs drop. Look for actual price reductions at stores you shop at, not just headlines. Third, track your own spending. Pull up your credit card or bank statement from 6 months ago and compare what you spent on everyday categories to what you're spending now. Sometimes, the best economic indicator is your own data. That takes about 5 minutes, and it'll tell you more about how tariffs are affecting your life than any government report. The one thing we'd encourage you to do this week is simple. Pick your 3 biggest recurring household expenses, things like groceries, gas, or household supplies, and compare what you're paying now to what you paid 6 months ago. If the numbers are creeping up and your income hasn't matched, that gap is real, and it's worth adjusting your budget before it becomes a problem rather than after. Quick reminder, everything we cover on Money Decoded is for educational purposes only. None of this is financial advice, and we're not licensed financial advisors. Before you make any money moves, do your own research and talk to someone who knows your specific situation. If this was useful, hit subscribe. We do this every week. That's the Decode for this week. We'll see you in the next one.